In part 2, I got the engine started. Now I have to put everything back on it. I will know that I don't have to take these screws out because it doesn't do me any good to take them out without pulling the fuel tank. So that will make that small part of the task just a little bit easier. And as a kid, people still had real type lawnmowers, but they weren't real practical or popular. They did okay mowing a yard if the yard was absolutely perfectly level and didn't have any issues. You could mow your yard with them and they'd be fine. But if you had any weeds or crabgrass or anything like that, they didn't work. So people stopped using them and they went and got rotary lawnmowers. Little tiny vertical shaft engines, two-stroke mostly. Some of them were Briggs and Stratton on the bigger ones, but most of the lawnmowers were little bitty two-strokers. That's got pieces back on that I have to have on there to make sure that I don't lose anything. I'm going to put these other shroud parts in a box along with the screws. And after I verify that this snow thrower actually throws snow, I'll end up putting them all back on. Having a bunch of heat shields so that I don't stick my fingers on a hot engine and burn myself is insulting. I suppose there are people that have no more sense than to stick their hands on a hot engine. But I've got that figured out long ago. To get back to the real type mowers, they had horizontal shaft engines. Horizontal shaft engines had one thing going for them. You could mount them in line with an axle, hook them up with a chain or a belt, or a drive shaft even, and make something that actually propelled you around the yard at a decent rate of speed. We called them mini bikes because they were small. They weren't motorcycles. They only had a 1.5 horse engine on them. They weren't very powerful. But when you only weighed 90 pounds, a 1.5 horse engine would haul you right along. It would haul along a guy that weighed 300 pounds without too much difficulty. Everything on that engine hung right out there. You could get to the carburetor. Every linkage on it was open and accessible. The only thing you had a fan shroud on was the fan blade on the flywheel. And that was just to duct the air so that it went over the top of the engine, because lawnmowers ran in the summertime when it was hot. And you needed to keep the engine cool. I'm not ever going to run this if there isn't snow on the ground. If there's snow on the ground, that means it's 30 degrees out and you don't have to have anything ducting air over the engine. So all this shrouding, I'll lay you a dime to a donut, is some lawyer's work saying, oh, somebody could put their fingers in there and get hurt. Well, they wouldn't do it twice. Okay. Let's see what happens. should be happy, shouldn't I? I've got to run a snowblower now. I'm not happy though. I'm not happy because this idiot machine made me work for an hour to get to a spark plug that didn't need anything other than to be cleaned. Now if it wasn't me, with a full rack of tools over there that managed to fit all the different screws, every shroud had a different kind of screw on it. Screwdriver slot, Torx head, socket head. And it had an oddball size on the spark plug, 5/8. Not a normal spark plug wrench. I happened to have a 5/8 deep well socket. So I was able to take this spark plug off. I've worked with engines for 50 years or longer. And I've got a pretty fair hand at taking care of an engine. This should be so simple that I would never have to do anything. This isn't 1938 technology. It's not a real type lawnmower that your great-great-grandfather used to mow the yard with. This is brand new. It's only a year old. They put so much crap on these things to make them energy efficient and less carbon depleting or carbon dispensing or whatever the hell they want to call it. Almost swore there. But I'm really pissed. I'm angry. This is asinine. That's a fancy word for saying somebody has a cranial-rectal inversion. I would much rather have an engine that didn't have all the fan shrouds on it and didn't have all the protection so that I couldn't get my fingers into something that I know not to put them into than to have this crap. And take it to my local service station. Where am I going to find a Briggs & Stratton service station? The guys who work at those repair places have to support their families. I'm glad that they've got jobs. I'm glad that they're working and taking care of things for people. I don't like it that somebody purposely made it so that the average person cannot repair their own stuff. We shouldn't be that dependent on anybody. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments below. You know, I read them all. And I bet some of them on this one's going to be pretty interesting too. Thanks for watching. Now I get to blow the snow out of the driveway after I finish putting all the shrouds back on. Another 20 minutes of my life that I'll never get back. And don't forget to click the like and subscribe button.